Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's Dan here. In this video, I'm going to be walking you through a case study of how my client Rodrigo, a busy Filipino-American healthcare professional, lost over 28 pounds in just 4 months working night shifts in healthcare. And so you can see here, this is him when he started, and this is him now 4 months later. He's still going, still in the cutting process, but he's achieved great results so far. And so I wanted to walk you guys through the blueprint and sort of the behind the scenes, kind of reveal the curtain in terms of like what we did together to help him get these results, so that hopefully you can replicate this for yourself, especially if you're in the healthcare industry, you're a busy Asian guy like Rodrigo is, and maybe you just have a similar type work lifestyle. This is going to be super, super valuable for you. I have to put a disclaimer on this before we get into it. This is not a guarantee of results. Results vary a ton, okay? Rodrigo happens to be one of my most hardworking clients ever. He puts in the work, he implements feedback at a lightning fast speed. And that's why he was able to achieve these results through a brutal schedule, right? And so what you lose, how much you lose, how fast, how often, it depends on your starting point, your effort, and your consistency. And so your results will be different from his depending on where your starting point is, all right? Just got to put that out there so that, the guys don't come after me. But Rodrigo started at around 211 pounds on the left here when he joined me 4 months ago, right? Because he's a Filipino healthcare professional based out of New York, and he works overnight shifts that sometimes run as long as 16 hours, which is crazy to think about. I can't even imagine working 16 hours straight. But he moved here for work, moved to New York for work, and the weight slowly crept on without him really noticing at the start, right? And what happened was, it started creeping up, and he told me he gained about 25 out of these 30 pounds in just 1 year, which was, this year before he realized like, oh shit, I actually have to do something about this, right? And what's crazy is that he didn't really fully realize that this was happening until his jeans stopped fitting on a trip to Florida. So it's crazy how that works, right? Like you can be gaining weight, and it just doesn't really register for you that it's happening until you're kind of forced to face it when like maybe your favorite shirts don't fit anymore, your belt buckles don't fit anymore, and you're kind of just confronted with the issue. You know what I mean? And so that was kind of his wake up call, was kind of being on a trip where he was meant to enjoy himself and meant to feel confident and meant to really make the most out of it, but he just really felt like held back from that because he didn't feel comfortable in his body, right? And on top of that, he was only really eating one real meal a day, usually eaten right before bed after a night shift, right? Bagel, iced coffee. That's pretty much all he was doing. He didn't really have a real plan. He didn't really know what he was doing. He's kind of just scrolling fitness content passively, trying to, motivate himself, but never really actually starting on something that was tailored and specific to him. And so what was really holding him back, once we really got to the bottom of it, when we kind of did our initial onboarding, was number one, no sort of plan around his schedule, right? Because his shifts flipped between night and days, which is really hectic and it takes a toll on your body. And like I said earlier, sometimes they were 16 hours long, and he had a lot of trouble getting any sort of routine going because of that ever-changing schedule. On top of that, he didn't have any support system, right? He had moved to the US 3 years ago, working super hard. All of his colleagues were kind of like older than he was, and he didn't really have any sort of accountability buddies or anyone who was trying to work on the same goals as him, who was as dedicated or who saw it as important as he did, right? And one of the reasons that he came to us for help was obviously like we specifically only work with Asian men, and so he really resonated with that. But the other thing was that he really wanted someone to help him and guide him. He didn't really have that accountability, right? Which is a lot more important than people think. Even myself as a fitness coach who's helped over 300 Asian men, I have my own fitness coach too, because I realized the value of accountability, the value of automation, the value of like just knowing that my plan is taken care of and that I have someone in my corner who's going to check me when I need to be checked, and also help guide me through the process of where I want to be, And so that's kind of the realization that Rodrigo had as well. And so fundamentally, the big shift that we made that really changed his trajectory was building his plan around his shifts, right? We couldn't just give him a generic plan and say like, here, good luck, go try to figure it out, because that was never going to work, right? We built his nutrition and training to really survive a schedule that changes week to week, including night shifts. And the good news for you guys watching this is that you probably don't work as intensive a schedule as Rodrigo does, which means that this is 100% possible for you. Because if someone who has as chaotic of a schedule as he does can do it, why can't you? Right? And when he messaged me, he had no energy before the gym. And so sometimes, it's kind of like balancing the seesaw between recovery and hard work, right? And so he didn't really know what to do there, especially given his demands of his schedule. And it's funny because he's in healthcare himself, right? Like he knows the human body, he knows how it works, but even someone in his corner, even someone who like him couldn't really like do it on his own. Like he needed that help and that accountability to like keep him on track through the chaos, right? And so let's get down to the tactics. What did we actually do? There's kind of 4 key things here, and I'll expand and go into each of these in more detail. So number 1 is we fixed the eating around the night shifts, because that was where he was messing up the most, right? Like I said before, it was one big meal before bed and not much else. He was probably snacking and probably just grazing on stuff throughout the shift. So there was no real structure there. And so we essentially built meals that fit his shift pattern and it kept his Filipino foods instead of like the chicken and rice, kind of generic plan that he was trying to do. Because he was also trying to cut out carbs and trying to be super restrictive and doing juice diets and all kinds of stuff that he was trying online, but nothing really worked because he felt so restrictive when he was doing it, right? And so once we started doing this, where he had that clear nutrition plan showing him exactly what to pick up at shift or what to get when he was eating outside, when he needed to grab something quick from a place around him, like he started understanding what decisions to make around food. And so ordering out stopped being a guessing game, right? Because someone like him, like sure, he can meal prep a couple meals a week, but like if he's doing 16 hours at the hospital, it's like, okay, well, what are you going to get? You probably are going to have to get something that's either in the cafeteria there or something that's outside, right? And so sometimes real life is you making a decision on what to eat to stay on track with your goals that isn't home cooked food. And so that was the biggest unlock for him, was understanding how to make that happen. And aside from this as well, yes, knowing the right foods to pick is one thing, but knowing how to pick the right foods and also fit that into your daily calorie and protein ideal targets to lose fat is also super important. So we taught him both, right? We taught him how to understand macros, protein, carbs, fats, how to optimize that for his specific goal of losing body fat and maintaining or building muscle. And then also how to fit the foods he was eating outside in the cafeteria at home into that plan to create a system that was actually predictable, that would get him consistent results on a weekly basis, right? And so I think for Rodrigo, he started off at a pretty high calorie goal. I think we started him off at around 2,200 for around around 200 grams of protein a day. And then we just gradually chipped it away once his physique started showing changes here, right? And so that was number 1. So number 2 is we kept the training simple and repeatable and doable, right? We didn't make it super intense, super complicated, because he didn't really have any bandwidth for that. And so his workouts were more like 3 days a week, anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes at a time. And so the balance, or I guess the benefit of having a 3-day-a-week plan is that you can easily shift it around. So if you have a scheduled workout like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but you happen to be busy on Monday, well, you can still shift it around to Tuesday and then shift the other one around to Wednesday, or Thursday, and then move the other one to Saturday, and you still have breathing room to rest, right? That's why this is so powerful, because he had a plan that he could stay consistent with even on his busiest weeks, right? And that's why he actually stuck with them, because they were easy to follow, they were simple, and they were repeatable, And so number 3, and so once we had the nutrition dialed in, then the way we structured his training was around weightlifting and not cardio, right? I think a lot of guys jump to cardio as the first solution. Like, okay, I need to go run, I need to go do some classes, I need to break a sweat. But that actually backfires, because if your goal is to achieve results like Rodrigo, meaning like you start building muscle definition, you lose the belly fat, you actually lose body fat, you have to be lifting weights, because lifting weights is what's actually going to bias your body to burn fat instead of muscle. If you don't give your body a reason to hold on to muscle by eating enough protein and lifting weights, it will 100% choose to burn muscle first instead of body fat. So that's why I talk about protein and I talk about weightlifting so much, so that you can bias your body to use the right type of fuel, which for you is going to be body fat, right? Cardio does the opposite. Cardio ends up burning muscle, and it causes you to just look like a skinnier version of yourself, which is why you might see a lot of like this typical skinny fat Asian guys, right? They are under eating protein, not lifting weights, doing too much cardio, right? And side note on this too, if you the way you can see this at its natural extremes is if you look at Olympian long distance runners, like marathoners and long distance Olympians who run miles and miles and miles and miles, they all have very skinny physiques. It doesn't mean they're weak. It doesn't mean they're not healthy. It's just because the type of running they're doing, the type of exercise they're doing is most favorable when they carry the least muscle mass possible, right? So if your goal is to look lean, toned, and strong, you can't be doing a ton of cardio because you're optimizing for the wrong thing. They contradict each other, right? And so that was number 2. Okay, so that's a side note. Number 3 is we gave him the accountability that he was missing, right? He had he kind of joined our 101 tier, where he had support whenever he was stuck or he was drained. He kind of had me kind of, I guess, like making sure that he was on track, that he was dialed in. And so accountability started externally, where he just had that support every step of the way. But then over time, it became internal. It became him wanting to do this on his own and wanting to go to the gym and wanting to eat healthy and wanting to keep up with his habits because he saw the results it was achieving for him, right? That's why accountability is so powerful. And number 4 is we build it to last, right? The goal was never to have him lose weight very quickly at all, because he'd done that before and then gained it all back once his old coach was gone. I think he had a coach back in the Philippines when he was there, and the coach kind of put him on a very extreme type diet and extreme type workouts. And then as soon as he stopped doing it, well, you can imagine he didn't really keep it up, right? And so kind of naturally speaking, everything, the weight came back, he stopped going to the gym as much, he lost motivation. And so we wanted to avoid that this time by teaching him the skills so that he knows how to keep his weight off for good and also can sustain this through any schedule. And so now he's down 28 pounds in 4 months. His energy is up. Shirts that hadn't fit in 6 months finally fit again. And he's noticing compliments from his colleagues, which, like, you know, people always say, well, I don't need anyone's validation. It's nice to have validation from your coworkers, right? We all get, it is, right? It is. And this is his weight chart here. So you can see that, you know, he's had a pretty consistent drop over the past 4 months here. Now he's sort of on like a brief break. I wouldn't say break, but a brief maintenance period just to allow his metabolism to recover a little bit before he continues dropping, because I think his ultimate goal is to get to like around 170. So he's almost there. You know what I mean? And in his own words, I wish I had the recording of the call, but in his own words, his confidence is coming back. He can wear his nice clothes again instead of hiding under baggy shirts. And the best part wasn't just the food and the workouts, right? It was finally having a plan that worked for him and having a coach in his corner who was going to help him see success no matter what, right? And so if you want help dialing in, if you see these results, you're like, man, Rodrigo crushed it. I'm kind of in a similar starting position, and you want help kind of creating a customized system for your specific lifestyle, your specific schedule, and obviously making sure that you can still enjoy your Filipino foods and you can still lose weight sustainably and enjoy life to the fullest, then DM me the word Asian on Instagram, and you know I can reach out to you and see if I can help. We can have a conversation, see where we can go from there. The thing is, like, most high achieving Asian men aren't stuck because they lack discipline, right? Most of the guys we coach are like really, really hardworking guys. They work long hours, so they know how to be disciplined and how to work hard. It's just that they're stuck because every plan they've tried was built for someone else whose life looks nothing like theirs, right? And so if that sounds like you, then this is exactly what we help guys fix. We've done it over 300 times at this point. So like I can do it with my eyes closed. You know what I mean? Not literally, but like figuratively. And so if you want help where you kind of want to learn more about what this would look like for you, again, DM me an Asian Instagram. no pressure. If not, all good. Hope you enjoyed the videos. Hope you get value from this, and I will see you in the next one.